My name is Eloin Hart, and on a warm July afternoon in Portland, Oregon, I thought I was living the safest moment of my life, the kind of moment you believe nothing can touch. The sky was that soft Pacific Northwest blue, thin clouds drifting like they were being polite. Lavender and eucalyptus lined the aisle of the outdoor venue, their scent floating through the air every time the breeze moved. I remember thinking how calm everything felt. Too calm, maybe. I was 29 years old. I had planned this wedding for 14 months. Every detail mattered to me, especially the music. Music had always been my language. When I was too overwhelmed to speak, I listened. When I fell in love, I made playlists. When my mother died 3 years earlier, music was the only thing that kept the silence from swallowing me whole. So the playlist for my wedding wasn't just background noise, it was memory, it was healing. And the person I trusted with it more than anyone else was Maeve. Maeve Lawson, my best friend of 12 years, the sister I chose, the woman standing behind the DJ booth in a black silk jumpsuit, smiling like she was guarding something sacred. She was a professional DJ, local, respected, and booked solid all summer. When she offered to DJ my wedding as a gift, I cried. I hugged her so hard she laughed and told me I was ruining her eyeliner. "You don't have to worry about a thing," she said. "I've got you." I believed her. I walked down the aisle to the song I'd chosen carefully. An acoustic version of an indie track my fiancé and I used to play on long drives. It was perfect, soft, emotional, exactly right. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows and trembling hands and tears I didn't bother hiding. And then it was time for the reception. That's when everything broke. At first, I didn't notice. People were laughing. Glasses clinked. My new husband squeezed my hand as we stepped onto the dance floor for our first dance. The opening notes started, but they weren't the notes I recognized. I frowned, my smile tightening as my brain scrambled to catch up. This wasn't the instrumental version we'd chosen. This was upbeat, loud, wrong. Then the lyrics kicked in. Explicit, graphic, vulgar. I heard a sharp inhale ripple through the crowd, like a sudden gust of wind. Someone gasped. Someone laughed. An uncomfortable, confused sound. My husband froze. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like my body forgot how to stand. The song blared through the speakers, bass heavy, lyrics unmistakable. A song about cheating, about humiliation, about sex in places you don't talk about at weddings. I looked around, panic blooming in my chest. My grandmother's face had gone pale. My boss stared at the floor. My college friends exchanged wide-eyed looks. Someone near the back snorted before clapping a hand over their mouth. And then I saw Maeve. She stood behind the booth, hands resting casually on the console. Not scrambling, not apologizing, not stopping the track. She was smiling. Not a big smile, not obvious. Just a small, tight curve of her lips. Controlled. Intentional. I mouthed her name. Maeve? She didn't respond. The song played on for 30 agonizing seconds before she finally faded it out. Silence crashed down, heavy and suffocating. She said into the mic, laughing lightly. "Whoops, wrong file." Laughter followed, nervous, polite, but the damage was already done. My face burned. I could feel heat crawling up my neck, into my cheeks, into my ears. Every eye felt like a spotlight. I laughed too. What else could I do? But inside, something splintered. The rest of the night blurred together in distorted fragments. Songs that didn't match the mood, transitions that felt clumsy, moments that should have been magical, dulled by embarrassment. People tried to reassure me. Honestly, it was kind of funny. At least it'll be memorable. She's a DJ, mistakes happen. But Maeve never apologized, not privately, not sincerely. When I finally cornered her near the bar, my voice shook. Why was that song even in the playlist? She shrugged, sipping her drink. Maybe you sent me an old version. I didn't. Well, she said, tilting her head. Weddings are stressful. Things slip. Her eyes didn't meet mine. That night, after the guests left, and the chairs were stacked and the lights dimmed, I sat alone in the bridal suite and stared at my reflection. Mascara smudged, hair loosened, smile gone. I told myself to let it go, but deep down, a question kept echoing louder with every replay of that moment. That wasn't an accident, and if it wasn't an accident, then what else had Maeve been lying about? I didn't confront Maeve again after that night, not because I forgave her, but because something colder than anger had settled in my chest. Suspicion. The days after the wedding passed in a strange blur. Thank you cards, leftover cake in the fridge, messages from relatives telling me the wedding was beautiful and so us, even though I knew parts of it would replay in my head forever. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that song. Not the lyrics exactly, but the way the room shifted, the way laughter landed wrong, the way Maeve smiled like she was in on a joke I didn't understand. My husband, Aaron, tried to help. She probably messed up, he said gently one night as we lay in bed, the glow of Portland streetlights leaking through the curtains. You've known her forever. That's why it hurts, I whispered. Because if it had been a stranger, I could have written it off. But Maeve knew me. She knew my mother's favorite song. She knew which tracks made me cry. She knew exactly what music meant to me, which meant she also knew how to hurt me with it. A week later, curiosity finally overpowered loyalty. I opened my laptop and searched for the shared folder Maeve and I had used for wedding planning. The playlists, the invoices, the endless drafts of seating charts and timelines. At first, everything looked normal. Then I noticed something strange. The playlist file had been modified 3 days before the wedding. Not by me. I stared at the timestamp, my pulse ticking louder in my ears. 3 days before. At exactly 1:12 a.m., I knew I had been asleep then. I remembered it clearly because that night I dreamed about my mom, standing at the back of the ceremony smiling. My hands started to shake. I scrolled. Buried deep in the playlist history were tracks I had never added. Songs with explicit tags, songs that didn't belong anywhere near a wedding ceremony, especially mine. This wasn't a glitch. This was deliberate. I took screenshots, every timestamp, every file change. Then I noticed something else, the invoice. Maeve had told me not to worry about payment. She'd insisted this was her gift. But there it was, a payment record under her business account. $2,500 paid, cleared. From my name, my stomach twisted. I opened my bank app, heart pounding, and scanned my recent transactions. The amount wasn't there, no charge, no withdrawal, which meant only one thing. She had invoiced under my name and charged someone else. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling as pieces began to click together in a way that made my skin crawl. The wrong music, the fake invoice, the half smile. This wasn't a mistake. This was a performance. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I replayed the past year through a new lens. Moments that had once felt small now glowed with warning signs. Maeve joking about how much attention I was getting during wedding planning. Maeve rolling her eyes when people asked about my vows. Maeve complaining about how hard it was to be just the DJ when she'd done so much more. Had I missed it all? The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I Googled her. Not casually, thoroughly. Reviews, forums, Reddit threads, local DJ groups. At first, everything looked clean. Then I found a post buried deep in a Portland events forum. Title: Has anyone had issues with Maeve Lawson DJ services? The post was 6 months old. I clicked. A woman described a birthday event where the music had been weirdly inappropriate. Another commenter mentioned billing confusion. Someone else said Maeve had double booked and blamed the client. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about me. I messaged the original poster, then another, and another. By the end of the day, I had 3 replies, all different stories, all the same pattern. Mistakes that humiliated clients, invoices that didn't add up. Excuses delivered with charm and laughter. I sat at my kitchen table, phone buzzing with messages, my coffee long gone cold. For the first time since the wedding, I didn't feel small. I felt alert. That evening, my phone rang. Maeve's name lit up the screen. I stared at it, my thumb hovering. Finally, I answered. "Hey," she said brightly. Too brightly. "I've been meaning to check in. You've been kind of quiet." I swallowed. "Yeah," I said, "just settling back into real life." She laughed. "Post-wedding crash is real." There was a pause, a breath. "Listen," she continued. "I heard from someone that you were asking about the playlist files." My heart slammed. "Someone?" I asked carefully. "Yeah," she said lightly. "People talk?" Silence stretched between us. Then she added softly, "You're not upset with me, are you?" I looked at the screenshots on my laptop, the invoices, the forum posts. "No," I said slowly. But in my mind, a new thought took shape, sharp and steady. If Maeve wanted a show, then I'd make sure she got one. After that phone call, I knew one thing for certain. Maeve was watching me. Not openly, not aggressively, but carefully. Like someone who needed to know how much I knew. So I did what I'd always done best. I acted normal. I replied to her messages with smiley faces. I sent memes. I congratulated her on a new gig she posted about on Instagram. I even commented, "So proud of you," under a photo of her DJ booth glowing under neon lights. Every word tasted bitter. Behind the scenes, I started building a file. Not a messy folder, not emotional notes, a timeline. Dates, screenshots, audio clips, invoices, contracts. I treated it like evidence because that's what it was. And the more I dug, the worse it got. One afternoon, while scrolling through Maeve's public business Venmo, I noticed a pattern. Payments labeled Wedding DJ EH. Corporate event, refund. Sound equipment rental. Some of the names didn't match the events. Some of the amounts didn't make sense. I cross-referenced them with her calendar posts, with tagged photos, with comments congratulating her on gigs she'd never mentioned to me. That's when I saw it. My wedding date appeared twice, once as my event, and once as a private showcase for a downtown bar. Same time, same night. She had double booked and blamed me. The realization hit slowly, like ice water seeping into my veins. The playlist sabotage wasn't just cruelty. It was coverage. If the music went wrong, if guests laughed, if the night felt chaotic, then any complaints would look like emotional exaggeration. A bride being dramatic. And Maeve knew that. I almost confronted her then, almost called and demanded answers. But revenge isn't about impulse. It's about timing, so instead I waited. 2 weeks later, I got an unexpected message. It was from a woman named Hannah, one of the people I'd contacted through the forum. "I heard you were the bride," she wrote. "The DJ incident. I think we need to talk." We met at a coffee shop in Southeast Portland on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The kind of rain that doesn't fall, it hangs. Hannah slid her phone across the table. "I recorded my event," she said, "because something felt off." The video showed Maeve behind a DJ booth at a corporate party. Music playing fine, normal. Then, without warning, the track switched. Inappropriate, jarring, wrong for the room. A familiar laugh floated in the background. "Maeve's." "I complained," Hannah said quietly. "She said I must have approved the playlist." My hands trembled as I watched. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. Over the next week, 2 more people reached out. One sent screenshots of altered contracts. Another had email proof of refunds that never came. Every story had the same ending. Maeve smiling, Maeve deflecting, Maeve walking away untouched. Until now. Because while Maeve was busy preparing for the biggest gig of her summer, a live-streamed rooftop event sponsored by a regional music brand, I was preparing something else. I knew about the event because she wouldn't stop talking about it. "This one could change everything," she texted me. "Industry people will be watching." I typed back, "You deserve it." What she didn't know was that I had already confirmed something crucial. The live stream would include live audio playback and a Q&A segment, and most importantly, all payments and bookings for the event were being handled digitally in real time, which meant receipts. I started organizing my file into sections. Playlist manipulation, busting double booking records, witness statements. I practiced telling the story out loud, calmly, clearly, without rage. Because anger could be dismissed. Evidence couldn't. Still, doubt crept in during quiet moments. Late at night, lying beside Aaron, I wondered if this would make me look petty, bitter, like I couldn't let go. "What if I'm wrong?" I whispered once. Aaron turned toward me. "You're not," he said simply. "And even if you were, you deserve the truth." The night before Maeve's big event, she called me. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "Can you believe this is happening?" I closed my eyes, steadying my voice. "I can," I said. "You've worked hard for this." She laughed. "Promise you'll watch?" "I wouldn't miss it," I replied. And I meant it. Because tomorrow, the music wouldn't be the only thing playing. The night of Maeve's rooftop event arrived wrapped in heat and nerves. Portland doesn't usually feel electric after dark, but that evening the city hummed. Strings of lights stretched across the rooftop like constellations. Cameras were mounted on tripods. A small crowd gathered, industry people, influencers, sponsors, all holding drinks that glinted under the LEDs. I watched from my living room. Laptop open, phone charging, notes spread across the coffee table. Aaron sat beside me, quiet but steady, his knee pressed against mine like an anchor. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded. I wasn't sure if I meant yes, or there's no turning back. The live stream went live at exactly 8 p.m. Maeve appeared on screen in a silver jacket, headphones resting around her neck like a crown. She looked confident, radiant, untouchable. "Hey everyone," she said into the mic. "So excited to have you here tonight." The chat exploded with hearts and fire emojis. I felt my pulse in my throat. The music started, clean, polished, perfectly timed. The crowd on the rooftop moved easily, laughing, swaying, filming stories on their phones. For a moment, doubt flickered. What if she really has changed? What if tonight goes perfectly? Then the Q&A segment was announced. Maeve leaned toward the camera. We're gonna answer a few questions from the chat before the final set. This was it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The chat scrolled fast. Who inspires your playlists? How do you handle difficult clients? What's your biggest career lesson? I waited. Then I typed, username allowant.hh. Question, how do you prevent playlist mistakes at weddings, especially when invoices and bookings overlap? For half a second, nothing happened. Then Maeve's smile twitched, barely noticeable, but I saw it. She laughed lightly. Oh wow, that's specific. The chat slowed. Someone typed, overlap? Another, what does that mean? Maeve waved a hand. I mean, sometimes clients misunderstand the process, but I always keep things professional. I swallowed. Not enough. So I sent the second message. Attachment uploaded. Screenshots appeared in the moderator queue. Timestamps, invoices, duplicated bookings. The chat froze. Maeve's eyes flicked to the side. To someone off camera. Let's keep this positive, she said quickly. We're here to celebrate music. But the sponsor's logo was still spinning in the corner. The stream was still live, and the comments were coming in faster now. Is that real? Why is the bride's name on 2 invoices? Wait, was that wedding sabotage? My hands were cold, my chest tight. A moderator tried to mute the chat. Too late. One of Hannah's videos autoplayed in the stream preview, audio bleeding through. The wrong song, the laughter, Maeve's voice in the background. Oh my God, someone said on the rooftop, loud enough for the mic. Maeve stepped back from the booth. Her face had lost its color. This is fake, she said sharply. Someone is trying to. Another attachment appeared. An email thread, her words, her signature. The sponsor's representative walked into frame, confusion etched across his face. Maeve turned toward him, whispering urgently. The music cut out. The live stream audio spiked with murmurs, shocked gasps. The unmistakable sound of a room realizing something was very wrong. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Then another message popped up. Maeve, Elowen, please, call me. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. On the live stream, the camera shook as someone reached for it. The screen went black, but the damage was already done. I exhaled slowly, tears blurring my vision, not from sadness, from release. Still, one thought lingered, sharp and unresolved. This isn't over yet, because exposure was only the first act. And Maeve? Maeve was about to realize how much truth costs. The silence after the live stream ended felt louder than the music ever had. I sat frozen on the couch, the black screen reflecting my face back at me. Wide-eyed, pale, breathing too fast. My phone kept buzzing on the coffee table like it was alive. Unknown numbers, Instagram DMs, emails marked urgent. Aaron squeezed my hand. You did it, he said softly, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing at the edge of something that couldn't be undone. By morning, the internet had decided. Clips from the live stream were everywhere. Short videos, slowed down, zoomed in on Maeve's face the moment she realized she'd lost control. Screenshots of invoices circled with red arrows. Threads titled DJ Sabotage Exposed and Wedding DJ Fraud climbed in views by the hour. People debated whether it was too far. Others shared their own stories. By noon, 3 more brides messaged me. I thought it was my fault. She did this to me too. I wish I'd spoken up sooner. Maeve didn't post anything. Not an apology, not a denial, just silence. That afternoon, I received an email from the sponsor's legal team requesting my documentation. Then another from a local journalist asking for comment. Then, finally, one from Maeve's attorney. The subject line made my stomach tighten. Cease and desist. I read it twice, then a third time. Claims of defamation, accusations of manipulation, a demand that I remove false content immediately. My hands shook, but not with fear, with certainty. I forwarded the email to the lawyer Erin had already contacted the night before. Good, she replied. This means they're scared. The next day, Maeve called again. This time I answered. Her voice cracked the second she spoke. Why are you doing this to me? I closed my eyes. I didn't do this to you, I said quietly. You did. She laughed, a brittle breaking sound. It was one song, Eloin, one mistake. One choice, I corrected, repeated, on purpose. Silence. Then her voice dropped. You're ruining my career. I thought of my wedding night, my grandmother's face, the way my chest had collapsed inward. You ruined something too, I said. I just stopped pretending it didn't matter. She hung up without another word. In the weeks that followed, the consequences stacked up. Sponsors pulled out. Gigs disappeared from her calendar. Reviews vanished or were replaced with warnings. Meanwhile, I sat in quiet meetings with other women, listening as they told stories that mirrored mine too closely to ignore. We compared notes, shared files, found patterns. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was accountability. Still, at night, doubt whispered. Was I cruel? Had I crossed a line? Then I'd remember the smile behind the DJ booth, and the doubt would fade. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, I received a final message from Maeve. Not a threat, not an apology, just 4 words. I never meant you. I stared at the screen, chest aching. Maybe she believed that. Maybe she didn't. But intention didn't erase impact. I typed a response, then deleted it. Some conversations don't need an ending. They need distance. I looked out at the wet Portland streets, the city breathing calmly again, and felt something new settle in my bones. Not anger, not triumph, clarity. And I knew the final step wasn't about exposing Maeve. It was about choosing what I carried forward. The last conversation I had about Maeve didn't involve lawyers, sponsors, or strangers on the internet. It involved my grandmother. We were sitting on her porch in the late afternoon, the air warm and slow, the smell of roses drifting in from her garden. She poured tea with careful hands and didn't ask questions right away. She never did. You know, she said finally, people think dignity is about staying quiet. I looked down at my cup. But it isn't, she continued. It's about choosing when silence protects you and when it protects the person who hurt you. That was the moment something inside me settled. Not with a snap, with a sigh. In the weeks that followed, things moved quietly but decisively. Maeve's business page went offline. Not dramatically, just gone. Her attorney stopped emailing. The sponsor released a neutral statement about misaligned values. A few months later, I heard she'd moved out of Portland. No announcement, no comeback post. Just absence, and strangely, that absence didn't feel like victory. It felt like an ending that didn't need applause. I turned my attention inward. Erin and I took a weekend trip up the coast. We walked along foggy beaches, talked about nothing and everything. One night, sitting by a fire pit, he asked me something simple. Do you regret it? I thought about it carefully. I thought about the humiliation, the screenshots, the live stream, the trembling in my hands before I pressed send. No, I said, but I'm glad I didn't let it turn me into someone I don't recognize. Because revenge had tempted me to be louder, crueler, sharper. But justice, real justice, had asked me to be precise. Months later, an email arrived from one of the brides I'd spoken with early on. She'd filed a formal complaint. She won, and she thanked me for giving her the courage to try. That was when I finally cried. Not from pain, from relief. I realized then that what Maeve had tried to steal wasn't just my moment. It was my trust, my voice, my belief that friendship could be safe. And while I couldn't get the wedding night back, I had reclaimed something deeper. My boundaries. I stopped replaying the song in my head. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently. Instead, I made a new playlist. Not for a wedding, for myself. Songs about survival, about clarity, about walking away without apology. On the anniversary of my wedding, Aaron and I danced in our living room. No guests, no audience, just us. The music was soft, the room was quiet, and nothing went wrong. As for Maeve, I don't wish her harm. I wish her honesty, because if she ever rebuilds, it will have to be without deception. And if she doesn't, that's not my burden to carry. This is what I learned. Public humiliation can break you, or it can burn away what was never real. Silence isn't strength if it costs you your truth. And dignity isn't about staying graceful for people who weren't gentle with you. It's about choosing yourself, even when your voice shakes, especially then.